What's up, guys? Coach Jared here with the Richmond Elite Podcast. Today, we're bringing you an episode with our good friend Danny Powers. Aside from having maybe the coolest name of all time, Danny was a very good high school athlete. Played Division I baseball for a little while. Ended up finishing his college career, playing some golf. Right?
Yep.
So it's kind of nice to get somebody with his kind of background to give a perspective, because it's unique. He played JUCO, he played D1. He had a high level high school career, so it's kind of cool to get the perspective on what the differences are at each level, and then he can also kind of talk about the things that he might have done differently on the way up, things that he did that he thinks made a difference kind of on the way up, and give perspective on that. So I'll let Danny introduce himself.
I'm Daniel Powers. I went to Assumption High School in Davenport, played Division I baseball for a year at Kansas State University. Ended up transferring to a junior college in North Iowa, and after that, I finished my college career at an NAIA school in Michigan called Aquinas College. I did end up playing some golf there, which was a blast. But I would say to start in high school, find something that you love to do. There's no doubt about that. So once you can do that, I think the games become a lot more fun and you're enjoying practice. So I'd say to start, do that. If you're not having fun, there's really no point to do it.
Yeah, you got a long way to go, right? So if you're starting out not having fun, it's going to be a tough road. So go ahead and go all the way back. Like, what did you kind of play growing up?
So I would say I'd give a lot of credit to my parents. Growing up, they put me in anything under the sun. So bowling, even as like a 6-7-year-old, was doing gymnastics, which you would never see from somebody who's my size now. But
right. Danny, how tall are you?
I am 6'3".
Okay. It's hard to tell on these podcasts. We're sitting down. So,
but growing up, do everything you could possibly do. There's no need to sport specialize until at least halfway through high school. Let's see.
So you played like organized baseball. What about like through middle school? Were you playing at other organized sports?
Organized basketball. I did organized track in middle school. In high school, I got divided down to basketball, baseball, and then my junior and senior year played some club organized volleyball, which was also a blast. So even in high school, even though baseball was technically my specialty, I was still doing other sports to keep myself entertained. And it's also like, for me in high school, I was 6'2", 6'3", 155, 165 pounds. Like, I'm not a guy who's built to go to the gym and lift 300 pounds every day. So I would do other activities to either keep me in shape or build some muscle, to say.
Right. So, but you are probably built to be a guy that throws heat.
Yeah.
So what were you like? What was kind of your velocity in high school and then in college?
So I remember my 8th grade year, my dad drove me out to North Carolina because that was my dream school. And you would go, you basically did a infield, outfield, where you take ground balls, fly balls, yada, yada, to hit some BP. And then you play a game, and then they grade you where they would rank you on their scale in terms of scouting. And at the time, I didn't know that, but my dad got the paperwork, and he read it, and he said, a low-grade Division I athlete, and I still had like no idea I was in 8th grade. Like, I'm not thinking about college 5 years down the line. So I think that weekend, so 8th grade going into high school, I topped at 78. The end of my freshman fall was 83. Sophomore year was 85. And then my junior year would be the big jump that I made, where I was 90, 91. Mm-hmm. And then my senior year, I didn't have any, like, I already chose my college. Like, I wasn't doing anything related, so I don't really know then. But, so let's see, I think when I made the biggest jump from my sophomore to junior year, I actually like finally started going into the gym a lot. Like
Yeah.
our school changed for gym classes. They gave us the option to do a lifting class. So rather than doing your nonsense dodgeball, pacer test, whatever you're talking about.
Badminton. That was what
Yeah,
we did.
exactly. Like the stuff like that. It's fun and dandy, but it's not
Right.
like,
We didn't have that until I was out of high school. The high school I went to, like, reset it, but it wasn't a thing when I was in high school. So I
Yeah.
played badminton.
So that was actually really beneficial, I think, because a lot of kids, like, you're talking about you get an hour to go work out in the middle of the day. Like,
You're forced to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people, we have to make time now. We're
Yeah.
adults, right? It's like you literally have an hour blocked off for you to just work out. And
Yeah.
I go to these schools sometimes, and like these kids don't like take advantage of it. They jack around, or they
Yeah.
just are like, "Oh, this sucks." It's like you don't know how good you got it.
yeah. I think it's easy for us to say that looking back. but
Right.
As a high school kid, that's, especially if you're not like looking to go to the college level or professional level of any sort, like you're just
Yeah, but
give me my A or my B and let's get moving on.
I get that, trust, because I probably would have been the same way, but that's why we're doing this podcast, so like people can listen. Like hopefully the kids can listen and be like, okay, maybe I should take this seriously. But even if you don't want to play a college sport, like, dude, fitness is gonna be a part of your life,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like dude. The best thing you can do is get into fitness young. It's like it's like investing your money,
Yeah.
you know, young. Like if
agree.
you do that, you're gonna have compound returns forever.
Yep.
Same thing. So
That's a great way to look at it, because I think if I got into lifting a little bit more seriously and your health in general, like you were talking about injuries, like they're not, like sometimes you can't avoid an injury, like
Right.
it's just built to happen. But a lot of the times, like if you just didn't have a foundation, you're gonna get hurt. Like
right.
I think last week you guys talked about you're just exceeding the load. And
So if the load doesn't exceed the capacity, right,
Yeah.
of the tissues, and basically, so what you're saying is like in the gym, you're building up the capacity,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, like you said, things happen. I mean, freak things where you could fall to, like, you know, like there's just certain ways that, and like I said, I mean, I've been injured multiple times. I'm sure you dealt with injuries in baseball, right? But I think what I was saying in the last episode, and I think we'll piggyback on, is that like the gym is a good way at least to minimize the chances,
Yeah.
right?
Relating to the injuries, I had surgery in 2020, which ended my baseball career. But I was one of those weird circumstances where it wasn't anything I did wrong. It was just like genetics. This is how my body is. Like there's just nothing
What
you
did
can
you
do
have?
about it. So I had ulnar nerve transposition. So they took my ulnar nerve, which runs through your ulna and your radius, and they moved it completely out of that pocket and more into my forearm. So they thought it would relieve the tension from there, and it didn't work, sadly.
Wait, so you still deal with that, or
So the only time I really feel it is on if it's a golf shot and I have to get super steep on it and I'm having to dig into the ground pretty hard. I might get some rebound effect of it into my arm.
but it was mainly when you were throwing?
Yeah, like after I would be done throwing, it felt like I couldn't lift my arm for 2 days. Like literally couldn't lift it. I remember like the first time where I was like, holy,
Yeah.
this is really bad. I threw a bullpen at my junior college and it was fine. And I got back to my dorm room and I took a 5-gallon bucket, filled it with water, filled it with ice, just put my elbow in it for a half hour till it went numb, and I still couldn't lift it. And I was like, all right, there's a big problem here.
Let's go get it checked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, and then after you were retired from baseball, essentially, and this is like, I think, kind of cool because it's like your way of, I'm an athlete, like, I'm going to be an athlete,
Yeah.
right? And so golf's a good sport. I mean, it's a sport that we play nowadays, and it's a sport that I think will carry your whole life. So you might as well, play it, like you said, in college. So
Yeah. I never played in high school, like rarely played, and just got fortunate to
Yeah,
go
you
there
got out
and
of your
play.
comfort zone.
Yeah, it was nice.
I think a lot of kids need to do that. Like, it's just, I don't know. Golf is a sport where it's so difficult, especially, I think, because I think a big part of it is, everybody says golf is so hard, and I agree. But I think most kids grow up throwing balls, right? So baseball kind of like, maybe they always can catch a baseball, right? Because they are always throw one. It's like you throw stuff. It's like a biology thing, right?
Yeah.
Same thing like with basketball. Even a lot of kids like grow up with like a hoop in their yard or something, and they shoot one. So it's like that sport's not. But golf, like most kids don't grow up like playing golf.
No.
I think golfers will tell you that it's way different than baseball, and I know that it definitely is. And you probably have to deal with like a lot of issues in your swing because of it. But you have like a lot of rotational power, and they're like, you know, Drew Owens, for example, he can hit the crap out of it too, right? Like all these baseball guys, they can hit the crap out of it. So anyways, I just think it's cool to like get out of your comfort zone and try to tackle something you have never done before.
Yeah. I think going back to the baseball and the stuff that I do know, in terms of for the high school athletes, I think keep it, like enjoy your time in high school. I think that's something I didn't do a great job of. And it's not something that I regret. I think the sacrifices I made in high school showed me an outcome that definitely exceeded whatever I would have been partying or whatever in high school. But do enjoy it. I spent a lot of time traveling the country. I remember in, I think it was 2016 or 2017, I spent like 3 weeks in Florida playing baseball instead of being in school, which was great. But it also, like, that was my job, essentially. That was, like, my goal was to do this for a living, like, provide for my parents if it was possible. Like, that was all I did. So growing up, like, I played locally for the Hitmen from 9 to 11, and then, like, it kind of, like, we were playing some teams in Chicago and Wisconsin, and they were like, hey, you know, I come, like, your son's pretty good. Like, do you want him to come play? And that's kind of like, for me, from 12 to 20, when, like, that was basically all I did. I think that's where, like, my parents knew I was good. I knew I was, like, a higher level player, to where, like, this might be, like, a real thing. And then if you just compound day after day, like we're talking about, like, good things do happen. So if you stick at it, it's going to be phenomenal for
So I got a couple things that kind of come to mind when you say that. Like, first, you say have fun. Like, a lot of baseball players that we train, you know, I would say baseball players, and I'm sure you would agree with this, the parents are maybe the most intense of, like, as far as, I don't want to say like forcing their kids to do things, right? Like, you just tend to see it a lot, right? They get maybe burnout. I would say, like, it's a very common sport to get burnout on, right?
I do agree with that, because if you think about baseball, it's not super physically taxing. Like, it's not basketball. You're not running 3 or 4 miles a game.
Somebody's going to yell at you right now, bro.
Yeah, I understand.
They want to pretend it, but it's like, bro, Pablo Sandoval is a good baseball player.
Prince Field or Albert Pujols.
Babe Ruth, I don't know.
Exactly. They're CC Sabathia. They're big guys.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about guys that are probably 6'5", 6'6", pushing 300 pounds. Like,
yeah.
And they're still one of the best at the game that they play. Like, you just can't argue it. Like,
right.
You don't have to be super physically in shape, as much as, like, we're going to preach the health stuff. Like,
well, and I think you're seeing that change a little bit, right? Like Aaron Judge, right? Like those guys, I mean, Mike Trout, like now it is changing, right? So, but you know, what you're saying is,
yeah, you're talking about Mike Trout, even like Shohei Ohtani. He's like 6'5", 220 probably. Like, he's a built dude.
It's different now.
Yeah.
Right.
The game, especially even since I've gotten out in the past 4 years, I want to say when 2019, 2020, all the technology got started to be adding to the game. And when I got out, like, the game has definitely changed a lot in the past 4 or 5 years alone. It's crazy to see. I mean, the high school and the college game hasn't changed that much. College, probably at the Division I level, has changed a good amount, because those programs have access to a lot of money and a lot of that technology that's coming out. So you are seeing a lot of changes to the game in general. What were we talking about just before this?
Well, I was just saying, like, I had a couple points, and the first one was like kids are getting burnt out, right? And the next point that you mentioned was that you, like, kind of man, I think I lost my train of thought too. Anyways,
here, I'll go back to that.
Go ahead.
The burnout. So, like I was saying, from 12 to 20, like, primarily that was what my focus was baseball, and like everybody knew it, family knew it. Every time family gathering of everybody, it's how's it going? Like, you still healthy? You still playing? It's like, yeah, I'm still playing. But so in high school, I committed to Kansas State before I was able to drive car. Like, I wasn't even 16 yet, and I knew what college I was going to. It's crazy to think about now, but when somebody offers you money and a lot of it and put it in your face at 15 years old, at some point you got to realize like you're not going to get much better. So, but the burnout is actually, I'd say I was definitely a part of it. Like, so high school, like knowing your college gets rid of a lot of stress in high school because you're not frantically trying to apply places. You just got to do it once, send it off, we're good. So all my focus was on baseball, especially from 17 to 20. But when you're at the top and you kind of hit that point where like there's nowhere else to go, like in 2017 when we won the state championship, I was first team all-state. Like, we won the state championship, and you're like, all right, what do we do from here? Like, in terms of high school accolades, you can't get much better. So you're like, after that season, I was like, well, since Iowa baseball was in the summer, I was like, well, most of the guys in my class going to Kansas State, they would all have spring seasons. So they'd finish their high school, they'd go play college, summer ball, or go to campus to work out and maybe take a couple classes. So those guys, I felt like I was behind those guys. So I remember talking to my parents about it and being like, I don't want to play my senior year. And they told me like, no, like this school's done a lot for you. So like the least you can do is play your senior season. And my junior year, like all winter long, my parents had a cage in the basement kind of set up. And it was like Friday, Saturday nights when somebody would be, there's a party, and it's like, nah, I want to get better. Like, you just kind of have to want to get better. So my junior year, like, that was all I did. So when junior season came around, like, lights are on, show's out, let's do it.
So would you say that you maybe, like, it sounds like you hit your goal. Your goal was to go D1, right? And so then once you committed, or maybe you had another goal of winning state, you know, you did that. First of all, it's like once you hit these goals, you're kind of like, now what?
Yep.
Right? Versus, so I would say I definitely feel that, and I felt that before. But one thing that my weightlifting coach would always try to say is that we're always going to shift the paradigm. So, and what he said, well, like he gave an example of like, you know, if you train high school athletes and you have a kid like you, for example. So let's say we have a kid that we know is going to go to college to play a sport. Like they're good enough to go to college. Then we're going to be talking D1, right? We're always talking D1. Like, hey, if you want to go D1, this is what you got to do, right?
Yep.
Then there's, you know, a kid like you that once we know you're going D1 now, we're saying, okay, well, this is how you start as a freshman, right? Or whatever. Like, it's not, D1 is not what we're talking about because that's a given, right? And then maybe you're the kid who, you know, you already know, hey, I'm going to start as a freshman. That kid, we're already kind of say like, hey, if you want to go to the league, right? Or if you want to, you know, and the point is you're always kind of shifting up a notch. Now, the mental side of that is tricky because you're always moving the goalpost. That's literally the definition of like moving the goalpost, right? And that's like, as you get older, I feel that in business, life, right? You make a career. Like, I remember thinking at one point, if I had this, like, you were a member of the gym before we had the whole building, right?
Yep.
So I remember like when I first had the gym here, it was like a small unit on the end. And I remember thinking if I had this whole building, it would just be perfect. Like I would have it made. I would never need anything more than that in life, you know? And now we have the whole building and I'm like, man, like this could be better. That could be better. Right. I could do this. Mm-hmm. We kind of talked about it last night. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's an example of me moving the goalpost, but I don't know, as an athlete, I'm hungry. right?
Yeah.
And it's like that's a way of keeping you hungry. So if you do, want to keep striving and maybe not, I don't know if the words burnt out or get complacent, try shifting your paradigm a little bit.
I would agree. I think so. To keep it rolling, after my junior year, and then I actually got like 7 or 8 letters from professional teams. So, example of like, this is different now. Like,
Right.
This is what we're working towards. So I filled those out. Like, started thinking like, oh, maybe college isn't an option because you can get drafted out of high school. Like, I don't care. That's fine with me. Like, you just pay my contract, you're gonna pay for my college afterwards. Like, call it good. But when that started happening, I was at the cloud 9. Like, what can be better? And I wasn't really thinking about shifting it. It was more of like, I think I had the point of view of I don't get to do what I want. So my senior winter of like, I did like no training. I didn't do anything. So like, why would I expect good results from something I wasn't doing personally?
Well, you also had been doing it for 8 years, right?
Yeah.
And so or whatever, a long time you've been playing, right? And you probably are like, this is like basically the point is you came to like some sort of like climax or some sort of like, antithesis. And it's like, this is it. And that's the problem with, because I'm very much like this, and it's something I work on a lot in life, is I'm very goal oriented. All right, I set big goals and I go to achieve them. But the problem with that is like, if you're essentially goal oriented versus process driven or process oriented, then once you achieve that goal, you're kind of like, okay, what's next? Versus if you learn to kind of love the process, or just say, hey, like, my goal is every day just to come in, put in this work, and what happens, then you never have that moment. So I think, and that's a really tricky thing. I think it's just, I don't know. I work on it every day, but it's a hard thing with athletes, is to not be like only goal driven, but to actually like love the process that you're putting in. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but as you get towards the end of that journey, you're like, dude, I've been doing this a long time. It's like when you're about to graduate college, right? And you're like, dude, get this over with, right? You're like, I just got to put in a little bit more work and then it's over. But then you don't realize is like, well, now you just got to go to work. Like, it's not really over.
No.
Right. So
I think since we're talking about getting older and talking about college, like, I was ecstatic when, it took me 5 years to graduate, but I was ecstatic when I got my degree. But that's like the next thing I did was shift the goalpost, because I was like, well, now that sports are done, like, what do we want to do in terms of a real career? How are we going to make this as good as possible? So first thing you do, sign up for grad school, sign up for more schools.
Right.
Try and sign, like, that's how I've been since I've graduated in general, like trying to keep an athlete mentality to the most part. So where like I'm still pushing myself in school, I still work a ton, like getting a degree, still trying to get professional certifications, like just trying to, at least for the time now,
Right.
while I'm still young still.
That's the other thing I was going to talk about earlier. It was how, I think you had these lofty goals. You said that you wanted to retire your parents, you wanted to do this, you want to do that. And I think somebody listening to this could say, oh, Danny, maybe he didn't do everything that he wanted to do. But in all that work that you put in, middle school, traveling 3 weeks in Florida, doing all these things, practicing when everybody else is partying, maybe they're thinking, oh, that's not worth it. See, that's not worth it. And it's like, no, because at the end of the day, like there's a lot of research I think out there, and it shows like athletes just are generally more successful in life because it teaches you how to be hungry, how to always strive for more. And like you said, it's funny because what we're talking about right now is what I think most kids need to learn to have. I think they need to learn to move the goalpost. They need to learn to strive for more. And then I'm at the point in my life, and I'm a few years older than you, but I have to almost sometimes learn to stop moving the goalpost constantly. But I think most people listening to this will probably need to understand that, like, that if you want to be good at any sport, if you want to be successful in life, that like complacency mindset, that the kind of fixed mindset is opposite of what's going to get you there, right?
I agree. Because I know, like, I'm getting my master's degree in industrial engineering. To get your professional engineering license, in the requirements, you got to pass the fundamentals of engineering, and then you got to take the principles of engineering. But the kicker is you can't even take that test for 4 years after college. Like, you got to go get the real world life experience, and they want to make sure, like, if you're signing or stamping something that's going to get built, like, you better know what you're talking about,
Right.
or you're going to get in trouble. But I think if we switch now, switch topics.
I was just thinking, like, do you see the kind of what you did in the past with baseball transferring over work ethic wise and kind of maybe mindset wise towards life?
100%. It's like not even close.
You said I still have the athlete mindset. Basically, it's like just push for more, right?
I think I'm at the age where I want to learn as much as possible, get as much life experience as possible before, like what you're talking about, trying to, or maybe starting a family sometime.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't before
not Becca's gonna watch this and be like, "There's not
Becca,
in the next few years, maybe."
Yeah, but before stuff like that starts happening, and it's like, well, I need to take the brakes off of, like, I shouldn't be pushing myself balls to the wall.
How old are you? 25.
Yep.
So that's when I opened the gym.
Yeah.
So like you're hitting that phase of like last 5 years I've been grinding, you know.
So like by the time stuff like that starts rolling around, I don't want to be behind the 8 ball and like not being in a position where I can at least take care of myself or my family. But
what you're gonna find, this is funny, and I mean, I think you should do exactly what you're saying, but it kind of goes back to that, like, where we have this goal or this like moment where we're like, okay, you know, for me, it's like, I want to be set up by the time I have kids. But God knows, I mean, and people have told me this, like, once I have kids, I'm not going to like turn it off. Right. No, like, I know, like, you know, and it's kind of the same thing. What I'm telling you is like, you know, in 5 years from now, you want to set yourself up, but then you're like, wait, I'm setting myself up for what? Because I'm just going to keep going. Yeah. Right. And so this is some elderly advice to the young boy over here, is like, you know, hey, you're going to grind, but then I think you have to learn at some point. It's like, I'm just going to grind because that's who I am. And that's like what I do.
I think it's honestly like, as I've gotten older and I've reflected on what's happened in the past, like, I couldn't agree more with you. It's probably not going to stop.
It might change, like baseball now, work, like career. I mean, same thing with me, weightlifting, you know, career, like business, like, so maybe I'll just grind as a father, right? Just like take my kid to every sporting event ever. But, you know, like, it's just, I think people need to realize that mindset that we're talking about, that in my opinion was developed for me from sports, no doubt.
Oh,
right.
I don't think it came from sports.
Really?
I think it came like from my parents.
Well, I was going to literally say my dad, but then, I mean, but the way he did it was through sports for me.
See, I think
yours is different.
What do you mean? What do you mean by seeing it through your dad through sports?
Well, my dad coached me in like every sport.
Oh, okay.
So like growing up, like he coached me even like in, like, I remember like when I was doing like T-ball and like up like through, like when I was done, he didn't coach when I was doing like travel ball and like middle school and stuff, but like Little League he coached. And then he would, I mean, at the end of the day, he was still coaching me because we'd go out and play catch and like, you know, off the side, but he wasn't maybe the team coach.
Yeah.
But he was the team coach for basketball up through 8th grade. And then still was like my skills coach as far as like, I mean, we worked every day. So my point was like, for me, and I think we've had this discussion before, but like my dad didn't like, he did not like push me in like work when I was in high school or anything. In like career wise, it was just sports. And, you know, a lot of people I think would think maybe that would make you not have maybe the work ethic in career mode. But what I'm saying is like, what I've found is it's just the mentality of like wanting to be the best at whatever you do. Yeah. Right. And so I think that was kind of, maybe he was always kind of like, if you're going to do it, you might as well like try to be the best at it.
Yeah. See, I don't like my dad coached me in basketball till 8th grade. He was team coach from 9 to 11, and outside of that, in terms of baseball, like stuff at home, like you said. But I feel like, and especially in the past, I don't know, probably since I was halfway through high school, like the past couple of days, I've been getting up at, I don't know, 5:15, 5:30. That dude's walking out the door when I'm getting up to make breakfast.
Right.
Like, what?
So what you're saying is that he was a role model and like led by example.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's okay. We're talking about two different things then, because like that's, I mean, my parents did the same thing, right? They both worked, like they both got up early. They, but my dad coached on top of his job, right? I'm saying more from like an actual skills, like practical, like perspective. That's what. But I actually like what you said there, because I think a lot of people talk about, and I don't know, now we're getting into parenting and I don't know what the right answer is with this, but a lot of kids are forced to get jobs, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I'm just going to tell you my experience. I was not, my job was playing sports.
Yeah. I didn't have a job until I turned 20.
And here's the thing, like people would maybe say, like I said earlier, oh, you're going to turn out kind of lazy. Like you're not going to want to work. And it's funny because ask my wife, I work a lot, right? And I'm sure it's the same with you. And it's like, because what I'm getting at is like my parents led by example. It's like, hey, when you grow up, this is what you do. This is just how it goes. When you're a kid,
have your fun.
You have fun, you play sports, learn to work hard, but it doesn't need to be through financial gain, right? It can be through sports. But hey, when you grow up, you got to provide, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Real world hits.
Yeah. So no, I think we're on the same page. I just more wanted to touch on the fact that like, I think a lot of people, we get kids, they're like, well, I'm not going to ever play a college sport, or I'm not going to go pro, or, whatever. And they think, okay, so I shouldn't come train, or I shouldn't, it's like, I find that the people who have that mentality in sports are probably going to have that mentality in life.
Yep. Give me my 9 to 5. I'll be here till 9.
Because
I'll get here at 9. I'm leaving at 5.
Well, I was gonna say, what is that mentality? That mentality is, I don't want to waste my time, because it's like it's a waste of my time to work hard in sports because I'm not in there. What they're not realizing, and this is, if I had to give anybody business advice, the biggest thing is you can't worry about wasting your time, right? Like we do free assessments with any athlete that wants to do a free assessment. They come in, I put them through like an hour-long free assessment. And then afterwards we give them advice and we say, this is what we would recommend. And we see if they want to come start training with us. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Right. But if I worried about them not signing up and I was like, oh, this is going to be a waste of my time. There's so many people that would not be coming to this gym right now that are, right?
I agree.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times people are like, hey, could I come check out the gym? I come, I show them the gym, right? Like, you can't be worried about wasting your time, because what you're doing in turn is building a skill. And I think you said it earlier, is like, I'm trying to learn. Like right now in my life, I'm trying to learn a lot. And essentially what you're saying is I'm trying to build skills. I'm trying to build knowledge. And when you're younger, that doesn't seem important. When I was in high school, I did not care to learn. I just was there for the grade, right? Yeah. Same thing. Even in college, I was like that a lot. And it's funny now, I pay all this money to go to college and probably don't learn a whole lot because you just aren't trying to learn, right? And then now I pay consultants to teach me things. Like I literally pay them. I'm like, man, if I would have just listened in college, I might be in a better spot.
Very. Switch topics.
Yeah.
We can go to talking about at least the differences in terms of college levels.
Yeah, let's do it. So
I know we got a lot of different athletes here in general, and what you can and can't expect in terms of depending on where you're going, at least.
Well, let's first generally say maybe what the difference in high school and college baseball or sports is.
Oh.
Or maybe you go ahead and say, like, what would you say the difference between college, or let's go ahead and go straight to D1. What?
No.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking in terms of, like, I think high school is too much of a variable in terms of, like, what everybody's life is like.
It's a good point, because your high school experience was not the same.
No, it's not the same as
mine or
anyone's, But In terms of Division One, where do you start? Jesus.
I mean, maybe how about what it takes to be good? Like, to be because, I mean, you worked hard, you would say, right, in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just about hard work. And,
To be successful, I don't know if I'm the best person to answer that because I wasn't successful there.
Well,
I was happy to get there.
What do you think would have made you more successful?
I don't know. I think it's hard to say. I mean, I think college is crazy because like it was the first time. It's the first time you're ever alone.
Yeah,
like, it's the first time you can.
Are you saying you had too much fun?
It's possible. I didn't drink in high school, and I started drinking my freshman year of college. I mean, I didn't go out and party a lot, but I mean, it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't partying so much that it was affecting anything I was doing. I think I remember when I got to campus, parents moved me in, and my roommate was a transfer from Dartmouth. He's now, I think, in the Giants organization, playing baseball still, but 6'5", 260 pounds. I had a rough senior year of high school compared to the junior year. So him and I we went out to the practice football field to play catch. And didn't really know much about him. And we're just playing catch. And then we kind of get like a little dialed in and started throwing it a little harder. Come to find out, he's topping out at like 95 to 99. And you're like, at some point you hit the level. We were talking about this, not yesterday, but the last time I was here. About
that might have been a while ago.
Yeah,
might not remember that.
What's his name? Who was lifting? He was maxing out on cleans. He went to UNI for basketball. You said
Mason.
Yeah,
but didn't go for basketball.
No.
But he was a really good basketball player in high school. But yeah, no, Mason. Yep.
Sorry, Mason, if you see this.
His brother's the kicker at UNI.
But he was lifting, and I remember telling you, I was like, "There's just some things you can do, and there's some things you can't do, and he's got something I can't do."
Yeah.
And I remember at Kansas State playing catch with him, and I was like, he's got something intangible that I'm never gonna have. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it works that way, and I think it put me like, I hit that climax in high school, and like when you start seeing guys that are just way above you, you just kind of keep going downhill. It's hard to dig yourself out of that hole, even with great coaches, like in terms of, even if it's a small mechanical issue in terms of pitching, like that could be the difference at 5 miles an hour in terms of fastball. Like there's just something that we just couldn't get figured out. So I don't know. But in terms of like from high school to Division I, strength wise, that first year was the biggest jump I've ever made. I think that was where like I truly
So did you start training with like did they have a team trainer for you guys?
So baseball specific at Kansas State, we had our own weight room underneath
for baseball
underneath the stadium. It was cool. Like you would say your view in the stadium from home plate.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk in, you take left and you walk a little bit, you're in the locker room. And then you go through the entrance, you take a right, you walk, there's the weight room. Like that was definitely a different experience in terms of like you have the accessibility.
And they're like, hey, it's here, you better do it.
Yeah, so this is a great story. Actually, I love this story.
Matt clipped this out.
So my freshman year, first strength, like weightlift day. Wake up, I don't know, 15 minutes before, 20 minutes before I'm supposed to be there. Roll in 5 minutes before. Like, nobody's in the locker room. I'm like, am I missing something? Like, what's wrong? Tie my shoes, to stroll in there. I think it might have been a 7 or a 6 a.m. lift. I strolled in there at 6 a.m. in 30 seconds. The clock has seconds. Door was locked. Whole team's in the weight room.
Oh, so you went to the locker room, but they were in the weight room.
They were already there. Like I didn't know how an operation really worked.
Right. Like doors lock at 6 or whatever.
Like
right.
you better be in here at 6. Like we got seconds, and I was like, holy shit. Obviously, he let me in. Like, gave me a break, thank God. But I remember that, and I was like, all right, let's figure it out.
Well, good thing my clock doesn't have seconds today. I was running late.
Yeah, exactly.
Oopsies. So maybe that's a difference, right? Like the standard. I think that's probably the biggest thing, right?
Back to moving the goalposts. Like these coaches, like they get paid to win. They don't care who you are. Like, and in my circumstances, the coaches that recruited me got fired before I got there.
Oh,
so like this was a whole the only two people in the program who were still coaching one was the what do you call it, training aide,
like a fitness or like a trainer. You say
trainer. There's a good word.
Yeah, it's like a trainer, physical, like a PT almost,
PT
right?
guy, and the strength coach. Those were the only two people who I'd seen or talked to before. But so that was a different experience in terms of the people who wanted me to be there were not there. Like I just kind of got...
That probably makes it tough, right?
I got stuck in a rock and a hard place in terms of because they got fired the summer of my senior year. So like I was already like kind of stuck where I was, which was fine. Like I wouldn't trade it for the world. But so yeah, don't be late.
Don't be late. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest difference between like maybe D1 and JUCO? Because I think a lot of kids are going JUCO now.
Yeah,
which is a good route.
New rules that just came out, which is crazy.
It's crazy to me, but all right.
It's crazy.
You're gonna have freaking 27-year-old.
Everybody get your doctorate degree. Let's call it a day.
It's crazy.
But back to what we were talking about with the strength, like I think that was where like I finally found like I enjoy going to the gym. Like it's also back to, we'll roll into the Division I to the JUCO stuff. So at Kansas State specifically, for food wise, like what we were talking about, I was coming in at like 165 pounds, 170 pounds. Which
what do you weigh right now?
Probably around 215, maybe 220.
Yeah, so you're still not like a giant dude, right? Like, so it's just crazy. 165.
Yeah, but so for us at Kansas State, meals were provided for, I think it was Sunday dinner, and then Monday through Saturday breakfast. So you had your lunch, or not your lunch, but your breakfast and dinner were provided.
Okay.
For those days. So Sunday breakfast, Sunday lunch, you don't get anything. But there was like you would have practice in the afternoon, and they'd have full like sandwiches, smoothies at the field. Like it wasn't like you weren't getting lunch. Let's make that clear. But the food at Kansas State is like buffet style. But they also had like a fresh grill. So it was like, I can have a fresh omelet every day. I can have clean food.
And you don't got to make it.
Yeah, I don't have to make it. Like fresh food, fresh fruit, smoothie bar, like you name it. The nutritionist did a great job of changing foods up. We did like, she did like cultural nights where like the foreign recruits could like have their own food from home.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So she did a great job with that. And she talks to all the strength guys to figure out like
what you need to be eating.
Yeah, like I'm 165 pounds.
There's probably some guys that maybe need to even lose a couple of lbs.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So those guys have a different diet than what I have. But for me, it was, I remember one of the winter days, I woke up, went to class, then went to breakfast, and it was, I literally ate until I couldn't eat anymore, and I got back to my apartment, and I literally just yacked.
So you lost all the calories anyway.
I would eat until no other, and I put on 30 pounds that year. So
let's make a point real quick. It's like we get a lot of kids. I can't gain weight. I'm sure you were that kid in high school, probably, right? Like you can. It's just not going to be comfortable.
No,
right? And you might not yak, right? But and you might. at the end of the day, it's not going to be comfortable. Quit expecting everything to be comfortable.
Yeah.
God dang, man. We have so many kids sometimes. It's like, this hurts, or this is my, so I'm sore. I'm like, yeah, that's the point.
It's good.
That's literally the point. Or, right, like, oh my God, I'm like, dude, what do you, we got kids where we weighing them, like when they're coming in, we're like, hey, you know, what are you weighing? And they're like, dude, I eat so much. And I'm like, I don't care if you eat so much. And I don't even necessarily not believe that you eat so much. But guess what? Eat more. Whatever so much is to you, because that's different to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Eat more than that.
Yeah.
If you're trying to gain weight.
I couldn't agree more. I also really enjoy food, so
Me too.
I got no problems eating.
On. I mean, jeez, it's food. People would be so jealous of these kids. They're like, oh, I just can't gain weight. It's like, you know what? Wait till you're older and it's very easy to gain weight. It's like, shut up, bro.
Yeah.
Eat your food.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's transition into what's the difference between D1 and JUCO.
I think the biggest difference between Division I and junior college, at least what I experienced in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll stick to the food for 1 second. JUCO food, awful, so bad.
So resources, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
like I would prefer to. I was cooking more than I would go get food. Let's say that, which is the better way to do it.
Makes sense. You're
anyway.
paying a lot more to go D1. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But I cooked a lot in junior college. I had one of those like 12-inch flat tops that you plug into an outlet, and it would be steak and eggs or something to remind me of the good old days.
It's so funny how poor you are in college.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Maybe not now. Everybody's got NIL.
Yeah, maybe not. Does that apply in JUCO?
Well, no, right now. No, the whole thing with it was that you could get NIL, or you just had less access to it. Like the schools weren't going to pay you, but you could still be like sponsored.
Yep. I see what you're saying.
So
where I graduated from, you were able to, like,
really?
same circumstance, but you were able to. But the biggest difference in terms of athletics wise in junior college and Division I think Division I is more of like every man for himself in terms of individual athletes, because everyone at the Division I level is trying to go professional. So the biggest difference was that I found in junior college, it's more of a family. Like everybody's there to try and get better. Like whether or not you came from D1 to junior college, or you're from high school going to junior college, or if you're just a transfer in general, like it felt like more of a family. Like everybody's trying to help everybody because we're all on the same mission to get to the same level.
Right.
So,
and nowadays with D1, everybody transfers every year and stuff anyway.
Exactly.
So it's like you can't really be a family when it's a whole new team every year, right?
No, I agree. But I think through junior college, at least, and having a better family, more guys, like you would hang out, do homework together. It would be like, it was always trying to find a way to get better. And I think in terms of if surgery would have went well, I think after that year, maybe some positives would have happened, because I was around like the junior college coaches that were there when I was there were phenomenal. Like they understood the game. They were in on the technology that was coming out. Like all they wanted to do was help kids get better at baseball, which it shows. Like all the coaches that were there when I was there are now professional coaches.
Really?
Yeah. So,
I think that's, a lot of people, the reason I want to talk about it is I think a lot of kids that come here, it's like everyone wants to go D1, but they don't realize like JUCO is awesome, especially for baseball.
Yeah.
And I think with coaching specifically, you get a lot of hidden gems as coaches in JUCO, especially baseball, because like, I mean, I know some JUCO coaches locally, and I'm like, these are guys that are on their way up.
Yep.
And you're going to catch them. Here's the thing. This is like anything in life when you get a coach or, working with like maybe an employee, like the most you benefit is like when you catch that guy, like when he's overqualified for his position essentially, right? Or like he's on his way up. You're like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like when I coached CrossFit, when I was like training for the Olympics, like I'm like, dude, these people don't realize like I'm like a freaking like, like I can, I'm winning national medals and I'm just also like getting paid $20 a class here and there to coach CrossFit. I'm like, I'm overqualified for this, but it's cool. They caught me during this phase, and now if they want to train by me, they got to pay a little bit more. So,
but yeah, it's kind of like stuff slows down, like especially when you're overqualified. At least, like like when you're playing, it's not as fast when you're viewing it from the outside. Now, I've noticed that a lot too. But junior, other than that, like junior college is just such a different breed.
Is it more like high school? Would you say?
No.
So it's quite.
I think it is like almost its own breed. Like
yeah,
because the Division I guys, they know they're good. Their schedules are built. Like you got to be here this time. You got to be here this time. Like
you just do your own thing on the other times, essentially.
Kind of like, but junior college is like, how do I say this? It's not every man for themselves, but it's everybody trying to get better. If it's not like a group setting, you see a lot more guys doing a lot more hard work in hours they don't have to. So it could be 8 o'clock at night and somebody's throwing balls into a wall. Like you see it a lot. Like the junior college people in general are very hungry to get to a higher level because they know they can't be here forever.
Right. That's a good point. Is I bet, and now just kind of looking at it from the perspective we were talking about earlier, is I'll bet a lot of these D1 kids, if we're being honest, their goal the whole time was go D1. Now they're there. They've already hit the pinnacle. Their foot is off the gas, right? Versus junior college, it's like their goal is like, I almost guarantee most people's goals when they're 12 years old is to not go to junior college.
That's
right.
Gotta be.
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but that's not what your goal is. So when you go to junior college, that doesn't make your foot come off the gas, right? It probably just like, hey, I want to have a good year here so I can go get recruited and go D1 or go get drafted or whatever, right? Versus you go D1, I think a lot of people think that's it. I did it. I made it.
I think it's a good stepping stone in terms of when we're talking about moving the goalposts. Like, you don't move it so far.
Right.
Like, you're not, like, you think if you go from high school to Division I, that's 4 years. Like, you go high school to junior college, that's 2 years. Well, or however many now. But you've moved it a little. It's still, like, in reach. It's attainable. Like, it doesn't take as much time. So it makes it easier. Right. I would say that. Like, I always thought after going to Kansas State, I'd go to junior college for a year and then I'd be back to the Division I level. And I think that would have been good if it worked out that way because it moved the goalposts, which it hasn't moved in 4 years. So it was nice in terms of that. So you would see those move, and then you move it again right away.
So do you think if you had to do it over again, you would have went to junior college first? I mean, okay, let's say because what you're saying is, well, I learned a lot, like for me personally, but like let's say you were advising somebody that was in a very similar situation as you. So maybe not you, like I don't wish that would have happened to me, but like if you were to give advice to a person like you, what would you have done? Or what would your advice be?
Go junior college.
Okay.
Personally, I would go junior college. Looking back, I would go junior college. If you gave me the same junior college school and told me I could go there out of high school, I probably would take it now, looking back. So I think it's good. I think it puts, whether or not you had a good high school career in terms of like we won a state championship or not, you're going to meet a group of people who all want to do the same thing. So it makes it easier to enjoy and it makes it easier to try to attain that next goalpost, if that makes sense.
Right. It's not quite as big of a jump.
Yeah. Right. You don't have the jump. You're probably around people who I think also in junior college, everyone enjoyed the process, which was mind-blowing. I've never seen so many people like buy in on something.
Yeah. So maybe you learn how to enjoy the process while you're at, or even just be process driven, right, in junior college, and then you're able to carry that in better into Division I or professional sports.
Yeah, in junior college you can I'd say in general, you could find the process that works for you. Like it gives you a year or 2 year time span
Right.
where you can find a process that works for you. It shows results.
Because
Now you
when
have
you're in high
something.
school, you don't know, you don't have a process.
God, no.
You have your parents' process, or you have your, you know what I'm saying, like your high school's process. But there, you need, when you get into high school or into college, whether you, like you said it, and it's even if you're not even playing a sport, just going to school, you have to figure out the routine, the schedule, the process that works for you. You know,
Yeah. If it doesn't work, you got issues.
big issue.
Kind of got to figure it out.
Let's wrap it up. I wanted you to finish us off with, like, you know, if you were, you know, like, think about the kids that we have coming here, the athletes we have coming here, like, what would be your biggest advice to them? You know,
You got to have fun. I don't care what you're doing. Like, there's going to be days that are bad. There's no doubts about that. I think it's enjoying the little things, get a little bit better every day. If you can just put Legos together. I like to view it like that. Like, might be 1,000 pieces, but I'll tell you, if you don't build the first one, it's not going to look as good as it would.
true.
I think that's a good way to view it in general.
I think that really what you're saying is learn to be process driven, learn to enjoy the process so that you don't get to a point where you, again, are like when we were going to college and we were like, I can't wait for this to be over. Right. I think kids get like that when they're playing high school sports. Is like, I can't wait for this season to be over. Right. And it's like, wait a second, dude, you're playing a sport. Both of us pay money to play recreational sports. Like, you know, we pay money every, week, whether it's golf or I think you've played in some volleyball leagues, haven't you? Maybe not, I'm wrong. Anyways, like we pay money to play recreational sports, bowling, right? What doesn't matter, right? When it's like now you're actually can play those sports for free all the time. I mean, some of these kids get to play in awesome venues,
Yeah.
right? Enjoy it.
Yeah. I don't think there's much. I'm trying to think. You just have to find a process that works.
And sustainable.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's not sustainable, there's no way.
Right.
Like,
What's the point? You got a long life. You might as well figure out the things that you're going to be able to stick with.
yeah.
Right.
I think for me, I've started like reading more. I hate reading.
Same.
Hate it. But 5-10 pages a night. Next
You know,
thing
I
know,
also hate being bad at things.
Yeah, it's true.
So like if I'm bad at something, like I'm not very good at reading, I listen to a lot of audiobooks because I'm in the car and it's a good time to do that. But I hate being bad at things. Like I don't ever want anybody like, I don't like reading. I mean, it's not, in my opinion, it's if you're bad at something in certain instances, it shows a lack of effort.
Yep.
And for me, reading, 100% lack of effort. Right. So
I think you just kind of have to just get through it, get through the muddy days. It sucks, but once you get through it, it's kind of like a workout. Once you're done, like you feel so much better.
You do.
There's just no argument for it. You feel better, and then it's like you like that feeling. Let's keep building on good days.
it's a challenge. I think people like challenges, right? Like we pay money to challenge ourselves, right? Like, I mean, I do escape rooms and it's like, you're going to pay somebody to lock you in a room? Like because I just enjoy a challenge. So just look at everything as a challenge and quit getting all stressed out about it,
Yeah. There's no ifs, ands about it. You have bad days. You keep getting through it. And next thing you know, you spark in a good day. Less bad days, more good days. Next thing you know, you're on a roll. Nothing's
Full
really
steam ahead.
changed. Yeah.
Cool. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks, guys. We'll have Danny on the podcast again soon. Hopefully he doesn't move away from us. So,
Yeah.
all right. Peace out.
Yep.
Thanks, dude.
These headphones are comfy.
Dude, this is crazy. We're like 59.